And welcome back to Modern Survivability. Think fast, think accurate. Today we're going to be doing another episode of Real Talk. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about what everybody else is talking about, which is kind of a huge thing, it's a phenomenon going on right now. And that's all these drones that are being seen over the Northeast and parts of the Ohio River Valley. So, whose drones are these? Well, it would appear that they belong to us, the government, the United States. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people have been saying, oh, they're terrorists or they're UFOs or they're all this other stuff. Well, obviously, we know they're drones because people are taking pictures of these things, really good pictures of them. But terrorists aren't going to fly drones over America to do whatever nefarious things they're going to do with all the lights on and following FAA regulations. Probably not a thing. So that kind of narrows it down. And we've been watching the press conferences on TV from the White House, from people like Kirby and a couple of others that say we don't have anything to worry about. So if they're not worried about them, they obviously know they're a real thing. People are videoing these things, taking pictures. They've been all over the news, all over social media. Who do they belong to? My take on it is they belong to us, the United States federal government, Air Force, Space Force, whoever, private contractors that work for the government. Either way, they belong to us. I don't think they're any from any foreign agency trying to act on Americans. That would just be kind of dumb considering they're following all the flight rules and whatnot. So with that being said, let's kind of look at this a little bit. Drones. What can you use drones for? Well, nowadays you can use drones for everything. You can use drones for obviously taking pictures of things from the air or spraying crops, or there's some companies now that deliver stuff with drones. They're starting to do these things. So military uses them for all sorts of things. We see what they're doing with drones in the Ukraine Russia war that's going on. They're dropping mortar rounds, hand grenades, building bombs, turning them into basically a flying bomb and hitting people with them and waging war with these things. So there's tons and tons and tons and tons of things that can be done with drones, and there's thousands of different types. The one specifically I want to talk about, I don't have the exact model number on it, but I did a little bit of research on it when it came to what we're going to talk about today, and that's from a company called Nuvatech. You can Google them, you can look them up. It's an actual company. They've been building these drones for a while. They're a big supplier to federal agencies in the United States and some other places, to the best of what that's just what their website says. It's a little bit of open source information that you can check out yourself. It's an actual company. It's Nuvatech, Nuvia Tech. Check them out. And there's some other companies that do similar things as far as some of these drones go, and similar products that they're putting out. These drones are getting better and better and better, and with the help of AI and other advancements in computer programming and things that go into these flight systems, people are able to control more drones at once, whereas used to maybe you could only fly one. Now they have ways where one person can fly maybe 100 of them, or 200, or 1,000, or whatever the case may be, and do it in swarms. So the technology is there to do crazy things. All you got to do is look out here on YouTube, pull up a video of what people are doing with drones. It started pretty simple with when everybody thinks drones, they think of like the quadcopter type drone that everybody's seeing. DJI came out with probably the bestseller, and pretty much is the bestseller worldwide for drones. And anybody you can go buy one off the internet, and you can go buy one from some of your big box stores or something like that, and learn how to fly it in your backyard. They're not super technical. There are technical aspects to it to do certain things that go above and beyond what you would use it for recreationally, like taking pictures at the lake, or in the mountains, or doing something in your backyard with it, right? There's tons of technical stuff that goes along with it, but the computer programming that goes into these things and the flight control systems make it easy enough that pretty much anybody can fly one of these, which is a teeny amount of training. Some of them even fly themselves. So there's that. So I say all that to say this. With the ability of these things to have preset flight patterns, flight plans, if as you will, to go out and fly specific routes and then return back to wherever they took off from, to put your batteries in, to be moved somewhere else, use them somewhere else. They can do lots of great things, and a bunch of it can be controlled from something the size of like this phone, right, or a very small computer, and they can be controlled from. Some of them can be controlled from great distances. I mean, we've been doing the whole drone thing in warfare for years, decades actually, where you got Predators or Reapers flying over Afghanistan and they're being controlled from somewhere in the United States. So, I mean, there's that. So on top of everybody thinks drones, they think of your quadcopter, like your DJI or something like that. There's other kind of drones too, some that look like airplanes or gliders, or like a cross between the two, like like maybe an Osprey or something like that, if you're familiar with the V-22 that the military uses. But there's all different types, right? Most of the ones we see are like a quadcopter, or I guess it'd be called an octocopter. Some of them have like 8 engines on them. They're more round instead of square. And they can pick up very, very heavy loads. Some of them a couple 100 pounds. So, and you can put all sorts of things on it, from cameras to, obviously, we've seen weapons being mounted on them in some places, all kind of electronic devices. And that brings me to this company I was talking about. It's called Nuvatech, and my big take on the drones that are being used in the Northeast, and that is they're looking for something. Specifically, and I saw this on somebody else's video the other day, and I thought that's a good point. Why not do some research into it? So I started doing the research and started digging into it. And I haven't seen one of the drones that they're talking about myself. I don't live there. I live a long distance away. All right. But with everybody posting things on social media and the news and people filming it or whatnot, I can still get a look at some of these drones that they're taking pictures of and videos of. And from witness accounts on the ground. So with all that, me personally, I think that based on all those accounts and some of the other news things that have been breaking this around the same time, and I don't know if it's been intentional to do that just to make people, think these things, but the drones are looking for something, in my opinion. And some of the particular ones that we've been seeing pictures of look like they are some of these Nuvatech drones that have radiation detection devices on them. Why would you need a drone with radiation detection devices? Well, we can look back through history, and there's been talk since, I want to say, the end of the Cold War, right towards the end of the Cold War, right after the Cold War, after the Soviet Union fell. Russia had developed suitcase nukes, if you will. And that's just one example. And whenever the Soviet Union fell, and, well, here you go, Ukraine again. And Ukraine wanted their freedom a little later on from Russia. Part of the agreement was they would get their sovereignty in their country. And in exchange for that, Russia would pull all their nukes that they had stationed in Ukraine back to Russia proper, which they did. They pulled all their nukes out. They pulled all their delivery devices, ICBMs, bomb, whatever the case may be. Anything they had that was nuclear, they pulled it out of Ukraine and pulled it back to their own country. And then Ukraine had their sovereignty. Well, at least for a while anyway. And, you can come on here and you might be a little bit more educated in the thing, or you might have some, feeling some people crazy riding dirt bikes down the street out here. Crazy ideas maybe about, maybe you're pro-Russia, maybe you're pro-Ukraine. I'm not either one. And we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now as far as, what's going on in the Ukraine war. We've done that on a couple of other videos, and I'll do it on a couple of other ones in the future once I, find some more stuff to talk about that's relative to survival, which I promise that's where this is going. So some of these things went missing a long time ago. There have been other nuclear weapons that have went missing, and I say nuclear weapons, and I'm not talking about some of the ones like fell off an airplane in the Atlantic, or a bomber crashed, or some giant, like I want to say it's like a B-36, or whatever it is. I don't even know the nomenclature. There you go, military talk for you, of a nuclear weapon without Googling it real quick to tell you what type. You can look up most of the accidents, at least the ones that were publicized. You can do a quick Google search and see which ones were lost. Anyway, there have been other ones that have been lost, and there have been smaller ones that have been lost, smuggled, sold, whatever. Okay, if you've seen the movie The Sum of All Fears, kind of like that, but in real life. So with that being said, there are fissile nuclear materials that are out there that have probably changed hands on the black market. Weapons dealers, terrorists, whatever you want to say, they're probably out there. I don't know 100% sure they are, but more than likely they are. Enough so that our government worries about it. And enough that they put millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into trying to find these things. Well, a while back, not too long ago actually, they were worried that some of these might be, and it's been talk ever since 9/11. There's been talk of, somebody smuggling in one and creating a dirty bomb out of it. Maybe not necessarily the large explosion that we think, like the mushroom cloud from a nuclear device when it goes off. Maybe not necessarily something like that, but creating a large enough explosion while detonating it with some radioactive material, spread it over an area, bam, you got a ton of radiation out there, and now you have a dirty bomb. Okay, same thing could be done with chemical weapons if they, if they were to build it right, I guess. And with all that being said, it's a lot more potent, with nuclear material. So suitcase bombs, I would suspect, just having a little bit of common sense, would probably be not too hard to smuggle into somewhere, maybe. I don't know. But with that being said, oh, there goes the knucklehead on the dirt bike yet again. With all that being said, it's kind of odd that they were talking about that. And now we have all these drones that some of them evidently are capable of detecting nuclear devices, basically flying all over the Northeast, particularly over New Jersey, a little bit of New York, and they spotted a couple of them all the way out towards part of the Ohio River Valley on the other side of the Appalachians. So, don't know if they're the same ones. Like I said, I haven't personally seen them, but it's something to think about. Why are they looking, right? We don't necessarily have the money or the time or a whole lot of resources to be, or I don't personally believe that it would be a training mission just to see what the public would do. Not to that extent, especially in the world we live in today, where everybody flips out over everything. Oh my God, this, that, and the other. COVID this, COVID that. Yeah, I said it. If they, ban this video, ban the video. But, or they talk about gun control or abortion, all the hot topic items, right? People will collectively lose their minds sometimes over something that you could have a civil conversation about. At the end of the day, adults should be able to sit down and be adults, right? Have a civil conversation. If I disagree with you, that's fine. We can sit down and have a disagreement and don't have to come to blows over it. Something to think about, right? So everybody, I say everybody, a lot of people have kind of jumped this bandwagon that, at first when these things started happening, everybody's like, oh my God, it was all over like UFO channels and stuff, like these UFOs. They're UAVs, guys. They're flying navigation lights. Some of them, if you've seen the pictures of them in like at dusk, right? You can clearly make out the silhouette of a drone, right? They have navigation lights. They're running flight patterns. They're following FAA regulations. So somebody somewhere around there is probably, more than likely with those type of drones, is more than likely in the area controlling these drones, doing whatever it is they're being paid to do. And like I said, that going back to the, we'll say, rumors. I'm not trying to start any big deal or whatever like that, but the idea that maybe somebody has smuggled one of these things into the country, and that's what they're looking for. They seem to be looking around the whole area where the ports and stuff are. I really wish that guy would stop. Hopefully that little thing runs out of gas sometime soon. But they seem to be looking around all the ports in New Jersey, New York area, things like that, where theoretically someone could maybe bring one in on a container ship. Not sure. Like I said, a bunch of that is conjecture. A bunch of that is just rumor. Like I said, we really don't know a whole lot of it yet, but a bunch of it kind of points to it. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, I'm just saying the government says you don't have nothing to worry about. Then you probably got something to worry about, right? I mean, it's just their track record isn't the greatest. So the way that all that, in my personal opinions about what they're doing with these drones and how that relates to what's going on in the survival world, what could this mean for you, and how does this even relate to survivability? Well, if you have the government spending this much time and resources to look for something that could be devastating, absolutely devastating to our country, and it's not just and when I say devastating, yes, we'll go out on a limb and say that somebody detonated a dirty bomb somewhere, right? It's not just that instant area that's affected. You have second and third order effects, especially with something like that that's radiological, right? That could last for years. We're not talking about conventional weapons, right? We're talking about something that has a half-life. If you don't know what half-life is, you're unfamiliar with radiological stuff, there again, do another quick Google search and you'll understand. Sometimes when you contaminate an area, you can't go back for decades, centuries. I mean, look at Chernobyl. Look at Fukushima disasters, right? There's still some place right there that you're not going to be able to go back into for a long time. And for the people that can even get close to that, they have to wear special protection and suits and do all kind of certain things to do that so they don't get radiation poisoning. There's a lot of things that go into that. And with all that being said, the way this points to survival is the second and third order effects of any major event like that. It doesn't just have to be that. It can be, a lot of other things we talk about, like the hurricane that people are still, they're going to be recovering from Helene for a long time. But we talked about on a couple other podcasts. But like I said, with that, let's think about some of the things that this might have there we go again. Anyway, so let's think about some of the other things that this could have a possible effect on, right? If something like that were to happen in one of the major ports, that could affect anything from fuel to food, all kind of goods and services coming into our country, all kind of goods and services going out. And then if, depending on how widespread the disaster is, you got your medical infrastructure is just going to be taxed out in that area, what's left of it, right? And that could be anything from your normal hospitals to basically anything, right? It's just going to be taxed out in that area. So there's one thing, your medical infrastructure. Depending on where something like this could happen, if it's close to a major artery like a interstate or something like that, like a major interstate, there are major interstates. You got to think of like you're on the East Coast, right? You got I-95. On the West Coast, I believe it's I-5, and then everything in between, right? And if anything were to happen on the East Coast, anywhere around that area, I-95 is probably going to be affected. And with that being affected, a whole lot of other goods and services can't get to other parts of the country and have to be rerouted, causes back. There's just so many things that go into it, right? Not only that, so medical, food and water contamination, right? If you live in an area that's affected by that, and maybe some fallout from the area, the contamination is going to be ridiculous, and you got to have ways to protect against that. And depending on how close you are to said disaster, there might be some shelter things that are, think about it. You might have to legit evacuate. I know during we'll say 3 Mile Island, or especially during Chernobyl when a radioactive cloud was released. That radioactive cloud drifted with the wind. So when things like that drift with the wind, the places it's going to come in contact with, some of those places, depending on how high the dosage is, those people have to just up and evacuate. You don't believe me? Go look at some of the documentaries that have been done on one of the villages right there around Chernobyl, right when it happened. I can't remember how to pronounce the name of the pyramid or something like that. Whatever it's called, right there. Just watch the documentaries. People just up and left everything they were doing, and if you look at the documentaries now, it looks just like it did the day they left, except falling apart, obviously, and stuff like that. It's crazy, right? If we can get enough likes on this video, I'm going to go find out who owns that dirt bike, and we're going to get rid of their gas, okay? They just so happen to, whatever. Anyway, but with all these survival things that are related to a major event like this, I would say the sky's the limit, all pun intended, since we're talking about drones, but you really need to be prepared for these things. People have kind of, they were focused on the election there for a while. They were focused on this. They were focused on that. The whole time you should be focused on being prepared for what's coming. And that could be anything. Because if you're prepared for most of these things in a kind of a medium to large scale way, you'll be prepared for anything that might happen. And then, if we're lucky, nothing major does happen. But when that ice storm happens, or that hurricane happens, or you lose your job, or whatever it is, you're prepared at least for a little while, a month, 6 months, a year. You're prepared for these things, and all those preps that you did, all those skills that you learned, they will come in handy to help you and your family make it through an event. Okay, because that's what we talk about on here all the time. But me personally, like I've already discussed, what I think these drones are all about. And I really hope that's not the case. I really hope they're not looking for something, because I don't think it would be a test flight or a training mission. I think if that's indeed what they are, and they're owned by the government, and they are indeed doing that mission, that means that they think something is already in the country. And I really hope it's not. I really hope there's a plausible explanation, and probably never get it if they are indeed owned by the government. They're never really going to tell you, but hopefully there's a plausible explanation for it, right? And nothing happens if we go on our merry way, and that's that. Continue to prep, continue to do the things. So I just wanted to come on here and talk about those drones real quick and kind of address it, because I know everybody that's got a channel and wants to have their little take on it. That's my take on it. Do pay attention to some of these little, and I do it quite a lot. I look at all different news sources, but look at some of the first-hand accounts, and look at some of the things, like, you really have to dive deep into it sometimes, and find the little small snippets of information that are only on for a brief second, and then you don't see them no more, right? And when you compile all that stuff together, sometimes you'll get a better idea of what's actually going on, and it might not be what they're telling you on the news. Now, if you're listening to this and you're actually in that area and you're watching these drones and stuff like that, maybe you got some pictures or something, be sure to comment and let me know. I mean, like I said, I'm not there personally, but I'm just going by what's being reported, what I've been seeing on social media and news platforms, and in a whole bunch of different sources or whatnot. So, like I said, if you're there and you're listening to this right now, by all means, please leave me a comment and post a picture of one of these drones you took a picture of, or leave your feedback as to what you think they are or what you saw. That'd be great to have some firsthand knowledge from people actually on the ground living this. Give your opinions on what you think they are. That'd be great. I'd love to hear. So, with that being said, just make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. It'd be great. Check out our other videos. I know we haven't done a lot of videos here recently. We've had some stuff going on. We're trying to get back into it right before the holiday season. Then immediately after the holiday season, we're going to be doing some how-to videos on a couple of different topics. One of them might be how to find out who owns that dirt bike and get rid of their gas containers so they don't sound like that all the time with their little pocket bike going up and down the road. Sounds like a pissed off weed eater. But with all that being said, like I said, like, subscribe, check out the channel, check out our other videos. We got tons of great stuff on there. Also, check us out on Spotify. Check out the audio podcast on Spotify at Modern Survivability. We're over on Instagram at Modern Survivability 3, and also on Facebook at Modern Survivability. We got some more good videos, like I said, coming out, and they're probably going to be, most of them are going to be start hitting right after the holiday season. So with that being said, just remember to always keep your head up, always keep your head on a swivel. All right. Just remember to keep your eyes on what's going on. All right. Sometimes people, and I've heard it before, the best place to hide something is in plain sight, right? Um, so, yeah, I guess that's going to about do it for this drone episode of Real Talk. Um, Make sure you come back on here and check out all the other ones. So just remember to stay safe, and you are the last line of defense.